everybody's starting to talk about energy and frequency, right? Which is all part of it. You have energetics like the electromagnetic system. You have vibration. Whatever is your resonance is your residence. It's where you reside. So people will say, oh, I'm in 3D or I'm in 5D. I'm trying to get to the 5D. I'm trying to go through ascension. You're there. When you decide that that degree that you're rising into is aligned to the 5th degree of frequency, which is really the other 96%. It's like you're just moving into these other levels of frequency. You're always operating. I'm in 3, I'm in 5, I'm suddenly in 4, I'm in 3, I'm in 5, and it's like always like vacillating depending on your emotional frequency, depending on what I call your sovereign state.
Exploring the human journey.
Hi and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Gail and I got to go to the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles some time ago, and when we were there, we got to meet the amazing Stephanie Loge. She is an expert in angel sciences, and there's so many things that we're going to discover together. Stephanie, thanks for being here today.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
I think this is going to be so exciting. I can't wait. So, angel science.
Yeah, so Angelic Science is what I call it. And essentially when we think of sciences, oftentimes people get caught up in the chemistry and a lot of these other elements that we went to school for, but we don't think about
biology major, chemistry major. So,
exactly. Yeah. But there's a lot going on in the energetics. There's a lot going on in what I would call the sacred. And so for me, when I came online, I'll be honest, it was really very subtle. And when I mean online means I went from mainstream to light stream very quickly. Just kind of activated, and yet subtle in the sense of it wasn't a near-death experience. It wasn't I got struck by lightning or something crazy happened that I had a journey or anything of that nature. It was somebody literally saying to me, oh, I see 3 angels standing in the room, and one of them wants you to know that you're one of their girls, and he's
Boom.
Archangel Michael. And I went, okay.
And that hit it. You started hitting that frequency.
And so I suddenly...
How old were you?
I was about, that's a good question. It was about... in my 30s, I'd say like early 30s.
Oh,
yeah.
So it wasn't a childhood thing. It
was
later.
It was later. And I had been working in entertainment for many years, technology, the private jet industry, hedge funds, like all sorts of really mainstream, heavy duty, I'd say ego-driven.
Yeah, ego-driven, corporate. It's all about the Benjamins.
You were doing
I did the normal, you know. And then this happened, and I suddenly, it got my attention, but I didn't really know how to take it seriously. Because I didn't have a real big base in angels. I wasn't raised religious, I'll be honest. My mother was Catholic turned Buddhist. My father was Jewish. I kind of looked at all religion and went, I like a little of this, a little of that, but that one thing didn't really resonate with me.
Oh, it's fascinating.
So I took a little bit of the beliefs that felt good. And I always kind of went from that place, from the age of 9 on pretty much, of I have to have faith in myself to get through this. I know the faith is in me. So it became...
You were self-reliant.
Yeah, there was a real sense of that. And so for me, it was more, how do I go into this world now and manifest my dreams and do what I want to do and be this love that I am, and yet get over those traumas that we have in life sometimes that say you're small, dim your light, you're not enough, all those things that people come up against.
You're not good enough, right? You're not loved. Yep.
So we all have them. And over time, I eventually went, okay, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. And there was all these modalities that opened up. So eventually I found myself in this room with this woman, and she did something called quantum biofeedback or something like that.
Okay.
And she said, I know this isn't why you came, but these angels are standing in the room. So it was like divine, guided, whatever you want to call it. And then it took about 3 years for me to be convinced that that was true. It didn't happen just overnight. I had to kind of get stalked by angels. That's what I like to say it. And what would happen is I'd get woken up in the middle of the night. I'd have really weird experiences with people where they'd come up to me and talk about angels all the time. Like, that was a constant. And then eventually books would fall off shelves about angels. And I just couldn't ignore it anymore.
You're like, okay, I'm paying
Yeah,
attention
exactly.
here.
I got it.
Eventually I got it, right?
Yeah.
I was a little stubborn. So once that happened, then I came out of the angel closet, as I call it, in 2013. It was here at Conscious Life. And what was funny about it is once I made that decision to say yes and really step out and say, I have this connection. Now, the connection had been building for a few years before that happened. But once I really got comfortable to say, okay, I'm ready to make the leap or the jump into the foray of public, I had essentially a couple things happen. One was publishing my first book, which I thought, how am I going to publish my first book in a month and a half? Because I literally said yes in January, and Conscious Life was February, and I got an offer to do a panel on angels, bring in other experts on angels. Suddenly they're like, bring in a radio show, and all these things started just coming in to support the yes.
And so you've got to have that book to do.
Right.
Yeah, so this is
So
what...
you were just attending Conscious Life Expo. You were asked to like.
Yeah, it suddenly came
Will
in.
you be here?
Oh yeah, you need to come and talk about the angels. Now I had been doing it on small levels up until then, but this was really like coming out, right? So it was a big deal. And for me, I realized too that there was a certain edification that people require. You know, the ego mind is really tricky because the ego mind and the little children and all of us still want to feel important and like, so got to have your doctorate or you have to have your book or you have to have whatever you need to have to prove to
Validation.
people, to validate you, right?
So good.
And so I thought, I'm not writing a book in a month, so how are we going to do this? And what was fascinating from there was what I received directly was, you have all this poetry you've written over 20 years that chronicles your journey of being a light stream. Now let me explain what a light stream is. So light stream is when we're constantly in that flow. We're constantly tuned into that divine genius that is us, that says, oh, you're doing that, here you go. And it gives us the support. And as long as we don't create blocks to that, it streams through. Otherwise, we're buffering. And we got that little beach ball, right? So what happened is in about 2009, which was way before the Conscious Life Expo, I got this download that said Angelic Light Stream. So what's that? And my next guidance was Google it. Now, when I say the guidance, it's thoughts that come into my head. It's just these random thoughts. So I went and Googled it. And sure enough, it led me to something called the Holy Stream of Light and the Holy Stream of Sound and the Holy Stream of Peace that was in a document known as the Essene Gospel of Peace.
Ooh.
Now, the Essenes, where the Essenes come in, is they were ancient angelologists. They practiced angelology, which was for them connecting to angels at the level of the angel of air, the angel of water, like the elementals.
Okay.
And reinforcing those frequencies of nature around them within themselves. So they would commune with these energies, and they eventually became masters of these energies. Now, as we moved through that, what happened was I realized that was part of my lineage at a DNA level. There was a DNA activation that had happened just in the consciousness of awareness that had over time opened up. So as that happened, I went, okay, how does this work? And I just started to realize that this light streaming aspect was bringing in literally light, but not the visible light, the invisible light. And of course, the visible spectrum is important too. But there are different bandwidths of frequency that we're always tuning into. And they affect our cells, and they literally unlock. If you think of our DNA as like a code, it's literally unlocking certain blocks we have on that code to keep us restricted and keep us in this human form in a certain way so that we can go through life and eventually unlock ourselves.
Wow.
And it's this unlocking process. And I call this unlocking process using what I call the angelic dream keys. And there's different ways to do this. There's different statements. There's different codes or keys that I use that are known as the 72 angels or angels of God or goddess, if we're going to be complete in that codex. And so for me, it's tuning into each of these fiery elements, these light elements, and it activates and unlocks us even further. So that's how it all started. And then my journey went on from there, and I just kind of unfolded, and Conscious Life became 2 panels and, 2 years of that. And then eventually I moved into just other elements of working with people directly.
The domino effect of what opens next for you then.
Yeah.
So, Stephanie, you're talking about the DNA activation, that point. And it seems that it's there for everybody
Yes.
in their lives. So do you find that the people that are seeking you out, it's just kind of like their soul is calling for that activation in their life.
So this is, yeah.
I mean, it just, sometimes it hits people and it's like, boom, it's there, and then other times.
Of course. Everybody's going to have a different course of awakening, a different way that they're going to open themselves up. I would just say for me, my most important message is self-actualization and what I call angelic embodiment. And that means knowing that we are fully self-reliant, we are self-responsible and accountable for what we create in our world and our life and how we affect others. And there's no one that I give my power away to heal me or to activate me. That's not what I want as my work either. I'm not here to activate you, but I'm here to teach you how to activate self. I'm teaching you how to heal self. And I truly believe that's what most of the masters, if we call them the Christed masters, were here to do, were to demonstrate the transmission of light that they were, in order to give people a visual effect and an experiential effect of, oh, so that's how you do it. Because nobody had the template before, right? So they became like these living temples or templates of light. And they walked the planet at different phases for us to go through these ages of awakening in different ways as to what we're prepared for. And then we also tap into different levels of genius. Like your genius and my genius are different levels. It's what you came in specifically to do, where you were as unique as a fingerprint, right?
Yeah.
So good.
And so for me, it's not about saying, do it my way. I'm going to heal you, I'm going to bless you, I'm going to fix you. I don't do that as much as I'm going to assist you in removing some things and blocks that I'm seeing in your system that you're holding on to as your limitations. Unlock those, bring them out, and give you then reinforcement and restoration or frequencies that you can now supplement yourself with regularly to maintain that state. And then as you maintain that state, you get reinforced in going, oh, this is what empowerment feels like. Oh, this is what it feels like to go through life without being a victim, right? And so it's a process. And it's not something that I think, for me, you can rush. I'm going to be really honest. There's a big movement now with everybody, doing all sorts of things that say, I want to awaken now, and they're excited, but they're rushing it.
Yeah. There's something about that linear timeline and giving yourself the opportunity to have it marinate and kind of just grow and integrate. Yeah, it's like you plant the seed, you cover it up, and then you gotta water it. And it takes time for it to grow.
That's the nurturing,
Yeah.
And it's the mother nurture that oftentimes we've forgotten, because in our society, mainly, there's a very patriarchal element that's working right now, especially that we're seeing in the public stage really inflame. And that means everybody's really paying attention to where the imbalances are. Where is society not working for everybody? Because if it's not working for everybody, it's not working.
Well, and that's part of the consciousness shift too, is you're seeing that that old paradigm fall away of the feminine as a property. Now you're like, no, it's a co-creative process, and that's the mother nourisher too. You're really seeing that shift.
Yeah.
And the integration, I think that's something, especially in the U.S.
Yes.
Because we are the I want it now.
Yes. The turbo world. Yes.
Society. That's what we grew up in. We got everything now, especially for this next generation.
Same day delivery.
Even more. Yes. Or 2 day. Go Amazon.
Yeah.
The integration is so important. I have found that it seems like people try and skip past that, and it basically you end up having to come back to it because you can't do it.
This is what I always say in the awakening process: resistance is futile. It's going to happen.
That's right.
And it's on the level of allowance. When we resist it, right, it's actually more painful. But in the same token, if you go too far off, then you go into your genius and you're like, what is all this? And it's too much. It's overload, overwhelm. And you can get people who kind of have, I've had people come to me with psychotic breaks and all sorts of things because they went and did too much plant medicines or too many things, and their system wasn't prepared. And this is what people don't understand, is there has to always be reverence for self, reverence for Mother Nature, right? Reverence for the element of the power of that and the frequency of the magnetics and the electric dynamics that are going on in the system always. So there's a delicacy here. That's the reverence we talk about. The delicacy of loving self enough to know I'm not going to just put any substance in my body to try to open, and I'm not going to just have, let's say, relationship with just any person, because that's another thing. A lot of this polyamory things and all these things, not to judge them, but what I want to say is there's a commingling of energies that happen oftentimes when people open up to love. They're not holding the sanctity of self. And that energetic is starting to play out. And so all of these things are coming up to be revealed right now. Our system is in what I call the violet flame, or the violet earth framework. This violet earth is designed to reveal to heal, but it's this flame, this energy. And that type of light is intense. It just is. And the ultraviolet goes hand in hand with that as a frequency to reveal. So ultraviolet reveals, violet heals or releases. And then you get the diamond light, which is restorative. I call it the multivitamin L. So these three are the main ones I work with as frequencies when I'm working with clients. We run through those frequencies specifically to assist them in at least seeing what's going on in the system. And then, okay, let's get out what we can. That's like just the fluff. Kind of like removing the Swiffer. You swift up some stuff today. Let's just get the Swiffer off, the easy low-hanging fruit. But then we go into the deeper elements. And this is where we work with self-restorative. Bringing diamond light in means you're aligning to what I call the diamond earth framework, which is that element that people are starting to touch into, and they're seeing what they call the 5D. And this 5D really isn't a dimension, much more it's a degree. It's a degree of frequency. So to bring in the 360 degrees, right, which is like a circumference of a circle, if you divide them into half, you have 180. If you divide that into half, you have 90. If you keep dividing it down, it's always a 9 base. It runs down to the 9, right?
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah. So the 9 is a very special number.
Yeah.
You add any number to it, you will always get the number you add to it, right? So it's just this neutral number. So it's the code of neutralization. It's the degree that's always in there as the 0 point, truly. And so when I work with clients, I use these codes of numbers, and I use them as a 3 series, a 6 series, and then I use a word that represents the 9 to get them into frame with those frequencies where we don't have to go into the mental story. Numbers are neutral. They're the most immaculate light frequency because they're not activated on mantras or stories or beliefs or other people's past ancient wisdom, teachings, whatever, completely neutral. They're kind of like the binary code. So when we look at this as kind of a quantum computer, and we're all individual computers in the quantum computer, and we're exchanging files all the time with each other. Like right now I'm data dumping a whole bunch of stuff, and you guys are like, oh my gosh, okay. But what's good about that is it's going to start activating certain codons in your DNA that says, oh right, we're not junk, we have stuff going on here. And now instead of using just what you believe is your 4%, you're now accessing the other 96% of who you are. And maybe you'll get up to the 12 and then the 15 and slowly move into the 96, right? Depending on what's ready to open up.
I have never
heard
that
That's
before.
really good, yeah.
Numbers are neutral. Wow.
Yeah. And of course, science and everybody's starting to talk about energy and frequency, right? Which is all part of it. You have energetics like the electromagnetic system. You have vibration. I always say, whatever is your resonance is your residence. It's where you reside.
It's good.
So people will say, oh, I'm in 3D or I'm in 5D. I'm trying to get to the 5D. I'm trying to go through ascension. You're there when you decide that degree that you're rising into is aligned to the 5th degree of frequency, which is really the other 96%. It's like you're just moving into these other levels of frequency. So to me, it's less about the linear location, the place we're trying to get to as a locale, right? You're always operating. I'm in 3, I'm in 5, I'm suddenly in 4, I'm in 3, I'm in 5, and it's like always like vacillating depending on your emotional frequency, depending on what I call your sovereign state. Your sovereign state is that space that's neutral, but always compassion to what's going on around you, because people are flipping out all over the place, right? They're having their experiences. They're going to have their dramas. The guy cuts them off in traffic. And it's not that you want to jump into that circus and play with those monkeys with them. You're saying, oh, sweetheart, I'm going to just love you in this moment. But also, what I call the ultimate love, not the unconditional, but the ultimate is, oh, you are doing something that's not appropriate to that other person. You're harming them. Let me step in and show you how this might work out a little better, right? We're able to step into our sovereignty, our freedom, and our authority, our graceful authority to say, hold on a sec, abuse isn't okay. This is the thing about the spiritual community I'm finding. A lot of times like, oh, that's their journey. We'll just stay back here, be neutral and watch and just send them love and light. No. We have to start taking some semblance of responsibility that we're all in this together. Yeah. We're all helping each other. We're all walking each other into that higher space of realities, right? And that experience together. And to me, that's when you start to become angelic. Yeah. You start to say, I have some authority here because that's a reflection of me and I know who I am. That means that's a distortion that doesn't need to be in my experience.
That's good.
Right?
That's part of the consciousness raising, where you're seeing now that you can't just be an innocent bystander. You have to be part of the solution. You have to be part of the whole. And now when we see a dichotomy between you and me are separate and you're the other and I don't want you or I don't accept you or build the wall, whatever the paradigm is, is you're seeing consciousness saying, wait a minute, we're all in this together. This is a planet of people together.
Exactly.
And what I like about your work is you're now saying, okay, we're people, we're all in this together. Now you need to come into alignment with the truth of the true self.
Yes.
Find the divinity within. Correct. Talk about that resonance within and
perfect.
What you're doing on that.
So what's interesting about that, so this came in as a download a while back, and it was called Halo. And it was at 4 in the morning, I got woken up, and the frequency that came in is known as Archangel Zachiel. I also call it the Violet Light Stream. And this frequency comes in and says what you're doing is something called harmonic alignment light optimization, aka Halo. Like, perfect, okay.
So this is dropping in, you're just getting this.
Yeah, and I would get these drop-ins at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning because that's when I was most open and
asleep.
And I know, asleep, but the city goes quiet. Here in LA, which is where I live, it's super busy and a lot going on. So when the city goes quiet, I can access those conscious frequencies. So anyway, Halo came in, and harmonic alignment light optimization became this idea of working with these 72 names or angles of consciousness that is the whole. Again, 72 degrees. They are the visible spectrum. Okay? And a little bit of the invisible. But let's just stick to the visible, what we know, and we are as matter. Okay, so Mikael is one of these keys, or Michael, you might know him. And so Michael, or Archangel Michael, or the arc current of Mikael is the me, or the essentially the my, let's just see it as the my, the possessive. Ka is the divinity of the soul of all, okay, and the Ka is known in Egyptology, it's also known beyond that, Sumerian. And El is of God or goddess. So now I want to talk about the goddess factor here for a second, because you know there's a whole goddess movement going on and the reclaiming of the feminine, the Me Too and all this stuff, what's rising in the frequency. It's balancing.
It's balance. I like that a lot.
And so it's not making the masculine negative or putting him in his corner as much as saying, hold on, the goddess is here and I contain all of this. So when we look at the creative aspects of what it is, God is in goddess. Man is in woman. He is in she. Who's containing the female? She's the womb. Good. She's the mother. For far too long, that S has been cut off and truncated. It's an incomplete frequency.
No.
So what we're doing is reclaiming that frequency, that full code. It's a codex. Everything's coded, guys. So you had mentioned off camera before about the numbers. The 222s, the 444s, the 1111s, right? All these things, right? Absolutely, it's true. When you ask the field or the universe or everything around you, the quantum aspect of computer genius, give me a sign, I'll give you a story. We were on, my mom and I were on our way here yesterday, and I'm doing what I call shielding. Shielding means like I'm putting up my buffers, my sovereign sphere. That means this is my domain, this is my queendom, this is what I allow for, and anything outside of it, it wants to come into my space. It needs kind of a hall pass, right? And that means like I'm just setting my sovereignty. Okay, so my boundaries. So
what's your radius for
that?
that?
My radius. Now,
well, how far away is it?
Exactly. Well, for me, it depends. I expand it or contract it. When I go into public spaces like this, I keep it pretty pulled in. I'll be honest.
Otherwise, you'd be knocking everybody over.
It's a little bit of chaos here.
Yeah, it is.
But when I'm in meditation and I'm opening up my field to serve, I can open it up all into Southern California. So my field can go pretty big, and it's just a practice. So everybody can do this if they claim they can, So it's intention. So in that, we were setting this intention of putting up these shields and this expression of that. And what was so fascinating is then I say, okay, I need some signs that we're complete, that I did enough. Because when we come into this, there's a lot of energy here, you know, and I just want to make sure I have enough going on that we're good. And the numbers weren't coming. And normally the numbers come like this. So they weren't coming. I said, okay, obviously we need a bigger sign. Like, I need some serious clarity right now. We get off the freeway and there's this huge, giant billboard of something that says like, some name, I can't remember the name, and it says Battle Angel, and I'm like, okay.
Got it. Yeah.
It's a movie that's playing
It's
right
Alita.
now, right? Yeah, thank you.
Alita, yeah.
And so, so what's interesting about that is, of course, that's going to put us into that polarity. There's a battle, but I don't mean it that way.
I love it.
I just mean we're knowing that there is a balancing going on. It's not a battle, it's a balancing. And that means certain things have to fall away to make room for the up-leveled version. Let's call it that, the diamond version, right? So the frequencies are rising. Gamma radiation is real. This is coming into the planet in plasma waves and solar flares, and all these things are coming in and frequencies coming in. We have 5G and Wi-Fi and all these energies and electric smog and EMFs, and nobody talks about it on the global level. Let's say it's like, oh, it's fine. Your cell phones are fine now. There's definite frequencies that are messing with the system, and I want to be real about it. And I want people to protect themselves and know the truth. This is an energetic system. There are energetic distortions coming in all the time. You got to do what you can to, I call it the care and feeding of angels. You got to do what you can to mitigate the damage of that. And that just means being smart with the types of water you're drinking, how much heavy metals you're getting in your body. That starts to affect this. Also looking at EMF blockers on your phones, turning your Wi-Fi off whenever you can, you know, getting out of the electronic debris as much as you can, get into nature, get grounded, hug a tree, you know, whatever you need to do.
So good.
And the most important one, get in joy. Joy streaming. I love it. So
what is it?
Joy streaming.
Joy.
Joy streaming.
Oh,
Going into joy.
I love it.
And joy streaming for me came in last year, end of last year. November was heavy. Had some loss, personal loss, friends and so forth. And I just thought, okay, how do we get out of this density? It's really heavy right now. About to go to the holidays. You know, this is heavy. And what came right away? Joy. Just stay in your joy no matter what. Joy no matter what. Joy only. So every morning I'd get up, I'd get this little ducky bottle full of bubbles, and I'd blow anything on my mind that was not feeling good into my bubbles and watch them pop. And it was a practice. And it sounds like, how's that a spiritual practice? Because my optics is seeing this stuff go out, go out, go out, pop, 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 pop. And I'm putting my intention through it, walking, blowing, thinking, like speaking, I should say, into these bubbles, believe it or not.
Brilliant.
And pop, 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 pop,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
And then in the process, I'm thinking, I'm activating that child in me that's like, I used to love bubbles. And whenever you see bubbles, you know, it's just that lightness of being.
Yeah.
So it was the angelic light streams way, meaning that frequency I'm always saying that's running in the background, the genius, that's saying stay in your joy, stay in the inner heart, stay in the child. Don't take this thing so seriously. Yes, there's a lot of stuff going on, but always hold your peace, hold your light at all costs. That is your power.
Yeah.
And I went, okay. And so I just stayed in that. And I put it all on social media and got like, what's your joy stream? How are you joy streaming today? You know, and we put that out there.
That's good.
So for me, it's really been a process to go through all of these things in different ways to bring it around and teach people how to embody that angelic beingness, that angle of consciousness that's their unique key, and help them unlock it and help them unlock themselves out of anything that feels like a nightmare and get into the dream. And so that's the process that I'm working on now.
So you said that you have, is that part of your Angel Academy?
Yeah, Angelic Academy. Yeah.
Angelic Academy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you do that part, and then so that's basically coaching and...
Yeah, so I private mentor and align people and coach people depending where they're at. And then I have a group academy, group coaching platform called the Angelhood. So once a week there's a call called Simply Sovereign, and we just stay like, okay, so what's going on this week? Stuff comes up. Let's get back into harmonic alignment, back into your sovereignty, claim your sovereign state. How do we do that? You know, and so it's me serving as just a reminder system, an accountability coach really on this level, right? And getting them to realize, look at, okay, so this came up, oh yeah, and that happened, and so what do I need to know about this? You know, because sometimes we block things from ourselves, and it needs an outside observer to look in, right? So I'm that outside observer that assists. I also guide them through light stream activation processes for self-actualization. So I just facilitate, I serve, you know, I just speak through and stream through on the spot through the guidance that I have, light streams, and that means visualize this, visualize that. Now open your chakra or open this. You know, I give them guidance. There's different processes that we can't get into here. But that said, people, when they commit to the angelhood, I find they start to look at their world in a different way. Everything becomes magical and mystical, and they're engaged. And it just makes life more fun because they're operating in a different way with it. They're not just on the hamster wheel. Got to get up, go to work. There's something else in their life.
Running the rat race around in a circle.
And there's something, another layer there now operating, and they can bring that into every area of their life. So, and I teach parents how to work with their kids. You know, kids are coming in really advanced. They're coming in vision on, like other things going on, and they're afraid to talk to their parents about it because they don't want to seem weird. So I talk to parents and say, hey, you know, bubble up your kids. You know, don't psychically attack them with the worry and the fear. Make sure you know their sovereignty. They're just in a little body. That doesn't mean they're not a massively light genius being that's come in and they're just in a smaller jump drive right now. They're growing their suit.
That's
you know,
good.
they're growing up into a bigger mechanism.
How did your parents take it when you started to get into
So,
all of this?
Mom, interesting. So when Mom was pregnant with me, she was Buddhist, as I mentioned. She went through these phases of evolution of consciousness herself. And when I was born, she was chanting as a Buddhist through the whole pregnancy, and then even as she was giving birth to me. So she always would joke I was her little bodhisattva. And the vibration, though, she held for me was so high. And that really continued through my childhood. So she was always very turned on, you know, like meaning lit up, aware. And she educated me and brought me into alignment with all sorts of things like crystals and tarot, or just different processes to explore, so I could look at them and go yes or no, you know, and just introduced me. So for me, she was always open, so it was not an issue at all when this started happening. She was very open. With my dad, different. I have two dads, first of all. For my biological father, he was an aeronautical engineer. He was more of an atheist, maybe agnostic borderline, but more of an atheist, right? And so when this started coming through, I had to really explain it to him in the scientific way, because the religious way doesn't work, right? So that's how Angelic Science became part of what I do, because I was like, how do I reach masses of people who aren't already on the bus, who are so like, this is so not happening, right? And how do angels get reinformed in our understanding that it's not just a being outside of us that's like, please, Michael, help me. It's, I am embodying Mikael. I am aligning to that intelligence that is informing that being, and as well as me. So there's that divine intelligence that informs everything, and is thinking everything in a form, including the angels, that people might see. I'm not going to say people aren't seeing beings, right? But those are formations, those are creations too. So I personally just go to the source frequency of it because it's informing everything, right? And that's how I explained it to him. My other father, who had been raised Jewish, he was just turned off to religion altogether. So it was very hard. I had to start showing him my aura photos and saying, see, this is an angel Afro dad. And he's like, whoa, because I'd have massive amounts of light around my aura. You know, I'd have to show him the scientific proof. So that he could even open up at all to what this is, you know, and it's just everybody has their way.
You know, that's interesting. I was given a religious narrative as this is the way it is. Angels and demons are fighting each other. The good news was there was 2/3 of the angels are still in heaven, and only 1/3 had been kicked out. So that mythology of the earth had been given to me as this is literal, and the proof we have is this 2,000-year-old text. So that's proving that this is real, which was written in the Bronze Age. They didn't have Google Earth. They didn't know anything about that. So it's interesting when you give presence to angelic realms, it can give people that have a religious context an idea that there are these little cherubs, or, you know, if it's the soft, you know, the soft cuddly baby angel, or if it's the warrior angel and they're there to fight, it can give someone an idea that there's this war. I remember singing a song in the church called "There's War in the Heavenlies," and the angels are fighting for God, and it was very just very tribal, very war and fighting. And as we begin to lean into consciousness, and we realize, well, wait a minute, there's the divinity within each of us, and we're all on this journey in this cosmic game, this cosmic play. Well, what is more to consciousness than this old archetype of fighting and whatnot? I love the work that you're doing because you're now giving some science to it. You're giving some credibility that it's not mythology, and here's some truth to it, and here's some fact, and then you're giving people the experience of feeling it.
And it's funny because I've had people who've turned away from their church and they're really like, oh, angels. It's almost like they're angelic allergic.
Yeah.
And I say, listen, okay, so what I know, let's just take for a minute, the Bible story, and there's certain elements I want to bring into here that's really interesting that came in recently. So what came through for me is Magdalene was this energy that kept coming up in the system. And I said, okay, so what do we need to know about Magdalene? And so when I asked, it says it's the apostle to the apostle, she was known as. What is that? It's the amygdala in the brain. I said, so who were the apostles? The 12 cranial nerves in the brain. Oh, but there's 24 because they're in pairs. Yeah, guess what happened to the other 12? Those are the feminine sides that got cut out of the Bible conveniently. So we are reclaiming all levels now. And this is the thing. The truth is rising. So it's just a matter of who was in control during those times, who decided to edit in or do a really good PR campaign around a belief system that was already based in Sumerian, let's say.
It was.
And now it carried forward.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you throw it all out. Because there's certain symbology and activations in reading it in text and hieroglyphs and anything we're looking at, there's information. So it doesn't mean you just throw it all out. But it's also going to be a matter of how do you interpret it, how do you integrate it, how do you allow for it to be processed through you. And can you look at it objectively, or are you just going to say dogmatically, I'm going to believe in this, and I'm not going to do the work, I'm just going to believe in this. Full faith in, right? Faith is a powerful frequency.
It is.
It is the precursor to knowing, which is the most powerful. When you get into gnosis, or think of Gnosticism, right? That's when you go into that state of that's the higher. Okay, so let me explain this a little bit. The heart is like this super engine, right? It's a torsion field. It's a magnetic generator, right? Creates the giant magnetic field. Okay, this torus exists with a star tetrahedron, sacred geometric, two pyramids base to base creating a diamond, and they come in and collapse and expand and spin and do all sorts of powerful things depending on our emotional state. So as that's happening and they spin really fast, then they create what you would call a sphere, and that's what people perceive as the chakras. It duplicates out into all the systems, these other spheres that hold the energies, and they govern as an alliance in your system all your endocrine, all your glandular, right? This is the emotional framework. The amygdala, which is in the brain, the Magdalene, is also governing all the optic, the vagus nerve, everything that's basically going out of the brain, the prophecy that's informing the word of God going through the system. Think of it that way. It's a metaphor. It's allegory. So we look at it literally. Now, that means, well, did Jesus exist? Did Magdalene exist? Did Mother Mary exist? And everybody's going to ask these questions. My feeling is, what do you want to believe? What do you want to invest in? If you want to invest in Jesus as your Lord and Savior, do that, but then where's your accountability in your self-saving self? And also, where can you clear the martyr within you? Because we're all getting off the cross.
Brilliant point, because I was able to hold that victim energy. Because, hey, I didn't ask to be here, and then I'm not worthy. Jesus had to do something. That's the trouble I have with people trying to integrate faith and spirituality. I'm like, nope, because that mindset is there's only one way. And that's the mindset.
Okay, so dog is opposite God, right? It's the reverse shadow of that.
You
I love
keep
dogs.
blowing my mind with all these.
I love my dogs, but don't get me wrong.
Dog is opposite of God. Wow, dogmatic.
Or evil's opposite of live.
Of live, right? It is. It's
so
reverse.
We look at the shadow aspect, which is just the opposite mirror reflection. So again, whenever somebody's coming in your field, do they trigger you? If somebody's really triggering you, oftentimes it's our parents. Our parental units are like the ones that installed it, so they know how to trigger and push the buttons.
They
right? We say that, right?
the buttons.
Right.
Yes.
So they're our greatest teachers and tools to refine our vessel, our light, our instrument. We are all instruments of divine genius. When we understand it is our job to refine this and tune each key and tune each string, okay? I call this halo aspect also, if you take these 72 degrees, I know we're covering a lot, but this is a good, so let's just cover this for a sec. Think of it like a harp, right? And each string is 1 degree of aspect of who you are, just one. And you're tuning each one. Okay, I'm going to work with Mikhail today. Strength and protection, feeling the unconditional love of self. Great. You move Mikhail into the system as a frequency. Mikhail, Mikhail, Mikhail. You just move it into the system as a frequency of word. Then you start to feel this energy come in. The energy is like a sapphire light. It's like a really brilliant blue. And that frequency comes in and you just start to relax.
Do you see the light? Do you see the colors? Okay.
Yeah, I do. So that's how I experienced angels, in fact. So when people were telling me about angels, like wings and halos and armor, and I'm like, I don't see them that way. I don't experience it that way. So I'm not going to buy into that because that's not for me.
You see resonance then.
I feel.
You feel it.
And I know. That's my main superpowers, if we're going to go there, is the knowing. People will say, how do you know these things? I just do. Because I'm aligned and integrated with the knowing. I don't go into the seeing, I got to see it to believe it. I went full faith frequency knowing. Like that was where I started from. I don't know why, just how I am. So that then can give people a visceral experience. Now this is what's really interesting. People will come at me and try to dim my light, right? And like question all these things because they're still insecure in their own. They don't trust their own. Or they're seeing a reflection because my light is there to reveal all the stuff in them they're still holding on to as their limitations. And it comes right up and they can't ignore it anymore. So it's an interesting thing when you start working with these resonant fields. But coming back into alignment, so once you work these 72 frequencies, this is your visible matter spectrum. Then you get access to the invisible spectrum, what I call the ultraviolet or infrared. These are high vibrational frequencies, and you only use them sparingly. Very powerful. So it's a practice, though. People just want to go 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. Guys, there's an integration. There's a dance of resonance within you. Take your time, enjoy it. Like it's like having a glass of wine, you know. But you're the wine, you know. You just like drink yourself in,
savor it.
And this is where I'm really feeling is the message right now for people is to not jump cut to the next scene, like really play out the scene, get the juice out of it. And so that's the same thing with these keys. And as I teach these keys, now what's fascinating is now they're saying, okay, now you're ready for the numbers, the numerical version, not just the mantra version or the name or code version. It's like, now let's go behind the scenes. And so that's what's starting to come in. And so I think this is where people are starting to go, okay, you know, there's something going on, and they're all finding their entry point. Mine just happens to be as best as I can, as universal as I can to many different systems of belief so that there's a place for them to land and start from. And to me, it's not about a brotherhood, it's not about a sisterhood, it's an angelhood. It's like when we go to the common denominator of all of us, it's the frequency, it's the energy, it's the vibration, as Nikola Tesla says, right? And it's the love. And when we realize ourselves as that, and then we can go into the light and the sound and get into our dance and our music and our movement, and we take care of our bodies and our vessel and the instrument, and then we use that instrument to anchor light into this world, whatever magnificence you are to radiate, you just come in and you do it. And there's no apology. You just do it. You just love yourself enough to go in and say, here I am, it's what I do. It's what I am. And you give people the confidence to say, yeah, I'm going to step into my authority and what I do. And I call it the graceful authority because for me, it's not about like, a lion doesn't need a roar. It just goes in and it's, I'm a lion.
He just is. He's a being.
It's the isness, right? Yeah. So we go back to that and we go into that state of beingness and isness, as you said, right? And just know. And that heart knowing that I know links into the I am power center, that central sun as we know as the solar plexus, the fiery, they come together, and then the we are, which is the higher heart, the chakra here, the thymus gland, this is for immunity, our immune system. And this one I call the angelic heart chakra as well. It's the we are, it's the collective. So a lot of people are tuning into the aquamarine. This is this color right here. It's the bridge between the green, people know this universally usually is green, the emerald heart, right? And this is the sapphire light, this is the blue. So between the two is the aqua. So that aqua frequency is coming in more. And the aqua frequency is that we are balanced, we are love, we are sovereign, right? We are whole and holy. So this is the energy that's coming in now. And so as this keeps evolving, I'm just going to say this, is that the men and the women, it's not going to even be about gender anymore. It's going to be, what is your genius? What is your angelic nature? And I say angelic more than angel because angel literally means like form of a messenger, right? We are the messenger and the message in one. We are the keys to unlock this matrix that keeps us bound to realities that no longer serve us. And when we start to unlock ourselves, we start to become those keys that unlock everything. And everything will just start to disintegrate. And we'll start to see a whole new playing field. And that's what I know. But it takes time. Everyone wants it now. It's like...
Well, I think the biggest thing that I've learned on this journey is I came here to be David Marsh.
Yes.
And so, you know, when you have that narrative of you're not good enough or somebody else has to do something to make you worthy, you're always going, oh, I wish I was like that or this, or I will, hopefully someday I'll get connected into the divine and I'll... No. You came here to be this expression of the divine as only you can be. So be who you are. And that is the biggest joy that I've discovered. Is
the release.
Be who I came here to be.
And it was a release not only for us, but for our children. Like just allowing our children to be who they are. You know.
In fullness.
And everybody. Just, you know.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have to be like me and I don't have to be like you.
This is the most limiting thing I find is let's put everybody in these boxes. You're this, you're this, you're this. You're this politician favorite. You're this, you know, political favorite or religious or whatever the boxes are of separation, the division.
The labels.
The labels, yes. And that's the thing. Where can we find the universality? So I say the energy is where we find it. But I get more specific than that because to me, it's bringing in specifically the genius consciousness that creates everything. Energy is energy. There can be a lot of kind of energy, right? We want to get into that highest vibrational energy that's intelligent, the intelligent forces.
Oh, that's really
not
good.
Just any energy. So we're getting very intuitive because we're getting more in tuned with that inspiration that's coming in with every breath. And we're getting more aligned. Like you said, you're bringing the alignment, right? It's that alignment to that. And as that unfolds more, that intelligence unfolds more through you, your vibration goes up. And what I find sometimes, I'll go into rooms and people will clear out of the room because they can't handle the heat. They got to get out of the kitchen, so to speak, right? Because they're not willing to vibrate out of their addictions, vibrate out of those false limiting beliefs that makes them a victim always, all their illnesses. When people are really ready, all those things can go away very quickly. They really can. We got to let go of the relationship with them. I say it's stop feeding the monkey the banana, and he'll starve out.
That's good. I like that. Stop being the monkey.
In Journey of Souls, Dr. Michael Newton, he does a lot hypnotherapy with people, and he does talk about the energy field and the different colors. And I think that's really important that people realize the resonance, the vibration, the color. In Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh says there's this vibration that looks like it's not moving at all because it's the highest vibration of all.
Still point.
Oh, wow. Give presence to that, how you feel and sense that vibration, whether it was with other people, how you help them raise that level of vibration.
I take it that's out of the 72.
Yes. So your sovereign state is that neutrality 0 point. Okay, so when you come fully into that, I'm going to teach you guys a little bit, if it's okay if we have time, for something that I call the sovereign statement. This is a manifestation tool of how to place yourself outside the mental miasma that's vibrating. To that still point sovereign state you're talking about. It's intention. We can place ourselves there consciously, right? You can go into a state of meditation and feel into it. When I asked specifically, I said, I want to know what God is literally. I want to know what that feeling is. And I got the correction, of course, it's more than just what you call God, right? That's a limiting label, but we'll put you there. And I went into complete darkness. There was no light. So the dark energy, dark matter that people always want to call the dark, I mean, we're even programmed to say it's dark, right? Like get out of the, don't be going to the dark.
Right. Okay?
The darkness is where all pure potentiality is waiting to happen.
That's the potentiality.
So the womb that is, that everything's birthed from, that first light would be called the face of the God, the God is face of God that we see. That first experience of vibration, the particulate that comes into matter that starts to shine out and radiate. But the divine light, with the capital L, is the consciousness itself. Thought travels faster than the speed of light. Thought's the fastest. Okay. So that consciousness is everywhere. It permeates everything. It knows what's going on millions of miles away from itself always. There's no separation. This goes back to the butterfly effect. The feminine frequency, that's that container that holds everything, is essentially what you would call that goddess we mentioned. You could call it the Shekinah. You could call it the Sophia. There's many names for it, right? But ultimately, what I like to call it, to keep it neutral and even out of the feminine masculine, because this is something we're dealing with right now, is I call it the diamond phoenix. And I put everything in diamond specifically to align our visual to that purest, most valued, strongest element that we understand here on this planet right now, right? But we could call it something else. We'll just say that's why I call it that. The phoenix element is the recycling. It's the, I receive you and I push you out. And I receive you and I push you out. I go into the highest states of fiery and I burn down to the ash and I rise again. There's a recycling element that's always happening. Look at life. It dies, it grows, you know what I mean? There's this constant cycle, right? This is how nature works. So I send you out and I pull you back in. So when I tell people, when we connect to that diamond light and we go to what some call the galactic center, you know, I mean, there's different ways or locales we can give it. But what I'm going to say is that womb of mother, we're always returning back and coming out, returning back and coming out. So for me, when we are aligned to that sovereign state, we are actually going back to that phoenix. We're going back to that womb. We're going into the darkness for a moment.
I'm going to pause on the phoenix. That when you were saying that, something's pinging really hard within me.
Yes.
We lived in a different narrative of the way the world was, and we got moved from there. In that religious narrative, God told us to move. We moved to Phoenix to experience burning away all of the old paradigm,
the dross,
only to reemerge with a new, even better paradigm.
Right.
Wow.
Everything's coded.
So
As
even
above,
that analogy,
so below.
we literally, physically, we live in the city of Phoenix, Arizona, which is
now
literally
you're on the journey of seeking out what is the truth, what is the authentic stuff.
And now we're in Los Angeles,
what is
the city of angels, talking to you.
Nice.
Boom.
So this is the thing. Everything is a codex. Everything is a living matrix of material and energy and all these things and intelligence, always moving. I mean, you can see it in nature all the time. You know, when you see different patterns, you'll see the leopard spots on a leopard. You'll see it on a manta ray, right? There's things that code out in different substances, right, that are similar. But what I'm going to say is this. I think for me personally, or what I know, because the thinking is putting me up here, I'm going to go in the knowing. What I know is that we are moving into an age of awakening that is angelic. And that angelic nature that we are embodying now means I can be this. In this moment, I can act it this way. Oh, I can handle this. Like you can handle multiple aspects of yourself. You're very multifaceted, like that diamond. So you're very complicated and complex, and you can tap into all these different levels of who you are at a multidimensional level, if we want to go there, and start to pull in that genius of saying, oh, there's an aspect of me that wants to paint. Okay, let me tune in and see who is a painter. What aspect of me has already done that? Now we can pull that genius in and load it like software and then start to go into the painting versus starting from scratch. If your soul's still saying, I got to learn, then you're going to learn, you know, but you at least can set the intention of loading that in first, right? So there's different ways we can use this operating system, this vessel, and this frequency that's always alive. We are what I call prisms of living light. That living light is that consciousness, intelligence that's always flowing. We just get to decide what we're going to do with it. Are we holding it back? We're shining and radiating our brilliance. Are we holding it back? Are we putting a lampshade on our head? Like, nobody look at me, I'm hiding, you know? And sometimes you have to, because you got to cocoon and percolate and integrate. And then you come out again. And I'm going to go back in again, you know? So there's a little bit of that sometimes.
Well, that's that expansion contraction. Even the universe does that. It's currently expanding.
It goes out and it comes back
And they
again.
say at some point it'll contract.
Exactly. So we're going back to that concept, you know? So I would just say, if you want to experience the true divinity that you are, go into the stillness, go into meditation, go into the stillness of mind and heart, tune into the heart, and just be. Go into the beingness. And then we say, oh, well, how do I get rid of the thoughts? This is why the keys work. You know, Mikael is a tether point. Keeps you kind of tethered into the space of frequency. And then you're like, oh, I got to go do the laundry. Oh, right, I'm meditating. Mikael. Oh, I got to go do Mikael. You know, it keeps you as tethered into your intention of that frequency. And it keeps informing as an antidote or a neutralizer to the opposite of what it is. So whatever's in your system that's in fear and limitation, if you start running the frequency that says, oh no, I am strong and safe and protected and loved, what do you think it's doing? It's informing everything, all the cells. Your blood is running through your heart every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
This magnetic field of emotion is informing every cell. And it's getting the memo and saying, oh, now we're doing this, now we're doing that. Oh no, now we're doing this. So as more you can keep into the similar frequency, then the cells can really regrow, rejuvenate, and reform the entire system and start to restore you. And then what do? We become immortals.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's really truly how we're designed. We've just been told and bought into a limitation that says, oh, you have about 100-year shelf life, give or take. Not the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much more. There's so much better. Yeah. And I constantly get amused by the trauma that we take on, and it's the hide and go seek. Well, if I'm not the divine, well, what can I be? I can be the opposite. So then I take on all this stuff, when really the secret is you're whole and you're perfect as it is. And then it's just a matter of coming into alignment with that.
Exactly. It's your belief. What do you want to choose to believe? And then putting your faith as that frequency. It's like, I trust that everything's happening to me. Now let me go back to the sovereign statements. They're reminding me. They said, you skipped that? Okay, thank you. Because I do. I kind of like go off on tangents sometimes, and then I have to come back. So I call it like different kind of ADD, angelic distraction distortion.
I love it. So good.
So for me, the sovereign statement is, there's two. The I know that I am, and then you fill in the blank. Let's just take abundant, because people seem to be really concerned with their abundance lately. So we'll just say that. So I know that I'm abundant, right? Beyond all measure and belief. Okay. So this is the statement. So the sovereign statement, the basic statement. Now, that fill in the blank, you can say healthy, you can put it in whatever you want other than abundant. Okay, let's break it down. The first part of that bookend, the first bookend is, I know that I am. Okay? I know that I am. We are claiming, right, what we are, the knowing, right? We're getting
That's
the heart
so good.
on board.
Because we hear so much, I am this, I am that. Then you're like, I
am
know
power. But you got to get to the knowing.
And that's the balance. Beautiful.
Yes.
I love that.
Okay,
piece.
so it's I know that I am. The other side of this equation, after the fill in the blank, is beyond all measure and belief. Well, what does that mean? Beyond all measure of time, beyond all measure of space, beyond all measure of conditions that are current in our reality. So if your current reality is you can't even pay the bills, and you're trying to manifest, I am wealthy, and you're looking at, I can't pay the bills all the time, and you're seeing your electric go off, and then your inner is going to go, that's not true, and completely reject it. Your subconscious, unconscious mind is going to say, no, you're not. That's not true, and you reject it, throw it out. Over time, you might be able to be lucky enough to override it. You know, you might just keep putting that frequency of intention in, and it'll eventually work. I'm saying, how do you want to jumpstart it? How do you want to get into alignment faster? So you go, I know that I am wealthy, in this case, or abundant, beyond all measure of time, space, conditions, and also your DNA. Your DNA is a multidimensional frequency, and it's a multidimensional operating system that is tuned into everything, right? And it has certain functionalities, and it has certain, I would say, pre-installed software, right? So if you have an installed element in your DNA, which goes back to a bloodline that you don't even know about, that was a Knights Templar that got persecuted for putting money and religion in the same format, and got persecuted and taken out, it's going to avoid putting money and spirituality in the same format again. That's dangerous. So that template, I call it the Templar template. Many have this in the spiritual community. And so they have that in the DNA. You need to get outside that too. You need to put yourself outside of that intentionally. And belief is belief at the subconscious level, the conscious level, this angelic conscious level, any conscious level, anything that's in the consciousness, the intelligence of consciousness. Where are you putting yourself then? At the 0 point, at the womb, in the darkness, in pure potentiality. Saying, this is where I am right now. I'm in my sovereign state. And I'm intending this out into the mental field of consciousness that I'm part of right now in the physical form, but I'm placing my consciousness outside of it. Because there's that idea of you can't fix the mind that's broken from inside the mind.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Yeah.
Now, people will say, well, this is the thing though, I don't feel like I'm buying into that. I said, okay, so then let's go to the I know that we are. How does that work? I know that we are abundant beyond all measure and belief. Visualize somebody's wealthy, Oprah. Let's just take Oprah on for size. Oprah's standing in front of you. I know that we are abundant beyond all measure and belief. She's demonstrating that abundance in every level of her life. Or anybody else. But now you are the we are. You are in the collective collaborative consciousness. That means, yes, I can say that because that's true for her. The sub buys into it.
Yeah.
The sub says, yes, I buy into that. Yes. Load it in, right? So that's where that statement's actually in the more empowered version. It just depends on what level we want to work at. Some people want to say, I'm going to just try that I know that I am, because that's even more sovereign, because now you're really claiming it for self.
So I know that I am, and I know that we are.
Right. That's the precursor versus just the I ams.
Fill it in beyond all measure.
The knowing, beyond all measure and belief.
Yeah, all measure and belief.
Brilliant.
Very nice.
So that's my gift for you guys to start practicing with, is an
Thank
Angelic
you. That's
Academy
beautiful.
kind of precursor.
Give presence to your website. Give
Yeah.
presence to the way people find you and the resources that you offer.
Yeah, so right now I'm working through AngelicAcademy.com, inviting people to be part of the angelhood, which I call this neutral zone of, meaning gender neutral. But basically for people to really claim their own angelic nature, that aspect that's conscious intelligence living out life. And then ultimately StephanieLodge.com gives people also access to, I used to have a radio show called Angels in the Buff, which is about stripping away the wings and halos and getting to this other understanding
Super
of angels,
fun.
right?
Super
And I do a
fun.
podcast still of that.
Good.
So they have archives. And yeah, so there's all sorts of fun things through StephanieLodge.com. That's my main hub. But Angelic Academy does have an offering for joining the Angelhood. So yeah, it's a monthly membership, and it's a really affordable way to work with me every month.
I love it.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the episode, we like you to give presence to the audience, to say, if there's one thing that you take away from my message today, it's this one thing. So as you're sitting here, you're feeling and your knowingness is kicking in, because I can feel that it is.
Yeah.
What is that one thing you want to make sure people take away?
Let's just come in for a minute. Let me just tune in. I invite you to consider that you are so much more than just human. I'm inviting you to consider that you have a sacred, holy nature that's within you that's just longing to be bursting into the universe now, and it's time. We need you. We need your light. We need your presence. We need the intelligence and the genius that you are. And I'm inviting you to love yourself so much that you can't help but go into the deep dive, go into the deep mystery of who you are, and just bring up that immaculate love, that immaculate nature that says yes to everything and has that full sovereign state in every way that says, you know what? I'm here. Love me or leave me. I'm here. And I'm here to bring who I am and who we are through this vessel, through this informative transmission. And I love you guys so much. And I invite you to just consider this, just sit with this and see if this resonates with you. And if it does, you know where to find me. And thank you for bringing this to me.
So good.
That was very, very
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a part of our journey. And I love what you're doing. Thank you for continuing to raise
Oh,
consciousness.
thank you. So honored.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us here on Exploring the Human Journey. You can find us as a video on YouTube or listen to us as a podcast. You can also join in the conversation by following us on Facebook and Instagram. For more information, go to the website at exploringthehumanjourney.com.